Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, November 23rd. I'm your host, Tom Moore. The game against Michigan in 6 days. If you were planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. Joined by Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Kevin, we are going to talk about the Ohio State Rutgers game for about 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and then we are going to move on. So we are on the clock. Here we go. Ohio State 42, Rutgers 9. That was weird.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at a game that was 14-3 at halftime. Ohio State just kind of seemed to be like playing with its food, and then goes and puts up 28 points in the second half. And you know, I'm not trying to short us on our 3 minutes and 20 seconds, but you don't have Jeremiah Smith, you don't have Cardell Tate, you don't have Mylan Graham for part of the game, you don't have Quincy Porter. You're going to run into some issues, but Ohio State fought on to win the game and set up a big game next week, sitting at 11-0 with everything on the table.
Yeah, they did what they needed to do. This is really a classic the week before the Michigan game week, where as soon as the game gets to a point where it's sort of settled, everyone goes, and now it's Michigan week. I think Tony Gerderman and I tweeted about 15 seconds apart, it's officially Michigan week, when Ohio State went up 28-3. The game before the game is always just kind of, okay, check the box, move on. Ohio State did have to do it in a little bit of a difficult way, where they, as you said, there was at one point where they were missing 5 of their top 6 wide receivers, because Jeremiah Smith and Cardell Tate and Quincy Porter were all out for the game. Brandon Inniss went out for a little while with an injury. Mylan Graham was not playing due to what Ryan Day later said was kind of inconsistency in practice, it sounds like, or just sort of, inconsistency in general. They had to do this really on the ground, which Rutgers' run defense is not good. We'll just, sort of stipulate that. But, you look at how Ohio State did it, they were fine. It was just kind of, okay, you can't win the way you would normally want to win. Okay, you made a couple plays on defense, you ran the ball, you get in, you get out, bing, bang, boom. It's like going to Wisconsin.
Well, and you look early in the game, and Bo Jackson fumbles at the 1 yard line. It's just like, oh boy, here we go. And I certainly remember, wasn't that Maryland game that went to like overtime, multiple overtimes? Wasn't that the week before the Michigan game?
2018, yeah.
And I mean, there were years where the schedule maker didn't like Ohio State all that much, and then played Penn State and then Michigan in back-to-back weeks.
2019, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so you just have to, take care of what you can take care of. But rushing for 38 runs for 254, 4 touchdowns. We've all heard the whispers, and there's not been whispers from a lot of people. This team can't run the ball, and there were times where this very bad Rutgers run defense guessed the right play. I mean, not to take anything from you guys' post-game show, but it was very Tecmo-like. You got 4 plays, yeah, and if you guess the right one, you're going to blow it up, and they did. But there were other times where Ohio State was able to get some of those missing explosives and take care of things, because everybody's like, Julian saying this, Julian saying that. Went for $157, 13 and 19, 2 touchdowns. I mean, not a bad game, 68%, which is well below his usual mark. But when you take the number of receivers off the board, like as we've talked about, I mean, 68% with I don't even want to single anybody out, because that's not fair. But they did not have their usual crew.
No, they did not have their usual crew. So thus endeth the Rutgers talk. So now it is on to Michigan. This is the week that everyone in the building, there's a countdown clock in the building to one game and one game only, and that game is the Michigan game. So, this is, they want to take it one game at a time, but also they also kind of have one eye on the Michigan game all year long. So this now you can turn the page, and now it is Michigan week. And the real question is, okay, Cardell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, once again did not play this week. Everyone's going to want to know the answer to this, and we can't possibly know the answer to this yet. But my expectation would be, over under 1 or 1.5 of those guys play next week. I think that's where the line is. It's not 0.5. I think it's 1.5 of them play. We'll see. I'm not even going to put you on the spot here, but it feels like that's going to be the story of the week this week. And to be frank, like the conversation around those guys changed from the time we walked out of here last Saturday until even Tuesday, Wednesday, it felt like the conversation around those guys changed a little bit.
Well, and Ohio State didn't drag on the availability report. I mean, I think everybody kind of knew they were going to be out, and they were out. But you go from, I think 2 weeks ago, Carnell Tate, dresses for the game, and it's like, well, I think he could have gone break open glass in case of emergency, and now he's not been in uniform the last couple of weeks. So I mean, there's obviously concern there. People pointed out that Jeremiah Smith being seen celebrating with teammates on the sideline on the television copy, still limping around or whatever. But again, he didn't get warmed up. He didn't go through any of that stuff. I mean, granted, he's not 54 years old like me, limping around just to get up to walk to the refrigerator or whatever. But 1.5 creates an interesting dynamic right there. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to go on record, especially not here on late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, whenever you may partake of this podcast. I'm not ready to go on there, just like I'm not ready to give a score.
Yeah, I think that's we'll see. I would be a little surprised if neither of them played next week. I will go on the record with that. We'll see. I've been surprised before, but that would be a little bit surprising to me. Michigan right now, as of the time we're recording this, is still playing. So they're up 21-10 at halftime against Maryland. So the expectation would be that this is a Michigan team that you figure they're finished the drill, they're going to come in, they're going to be 9-2 coming into this game, and at that point, they've got it all on the table. They got everything on the table. They have beat Ohio State, they have potentially go to the Big Ten championship game, depending on tiebreaker stuff at that point. They have potentially earned a spot in the college football playoff because they were 18th, I think, last week, something like that, and you're going to move up.
You beat the number one team.
Yeah, you're going to move up a good amount because all of a sudden, boom, you've got the best win in the country. So they have a lot on the line next week. Someone asked us on the postgame show, and I thought this was a fascinating conversation, and Tony and I kind of talked it through and didn't really land on an answer. So I'm going to ask you, who has more pressure on them next week? Ohio State obviously has the streak going against them, but Ohio State's making the playoff no matter what. Michigan, boy, there's a whole lot on the line for Michigan. So who has more pressure on them next week?
I'm going to say Ohio State, but I'm not going to say that it's a huge amount of, the number is that different, because you're right. Michigan has to kind of hit the inside straight. They have to beat Ohio State. They have to go to the Big Ten championship game. Obviously, winning the Big Ten championship game would cement their position right there. You're not really relying on a lot of help at that point. Ohio State certainly has the streak against it. Ohio State certainly would like to be the number one seed. That would be fantastic. But Ohio State has a little bit of house money in terms of its playoff life. Maybe there's not as much house money when it comes to, why haven't you won the Big Ten in all these years? Why haven't you beaten Michigan in all these years? All of that is very real. So I think that pressure alone is going to outweigh the other pressure, because I think that Ohio State, being defending national champions, everything else, Ohio State knows what's there. I don't know if Michigan knows exactly, I'm in danger. I mean, like the old Ralph Wiggum meme.
Yeah, so we'll see. The Buckeyes have their 3 stated team goals, and they are all ahead of them right now. Number 1, beat Michigan. Number 2, win the Big Ten. Number 3, win the national championship. They could, in the span of 5 football games, accomplish all of them. They could, next week, blow the first 2 of them. We've seen that happen as well. So there's going to be a lot to talk about this week at BuckeyeHuddle.com and at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle, and of course on your podcast platforms of choice. We've said this before on other shows. Tony and I are going to be doing a ton of shows this week. We're going to try and front load your week as much as possible so you have as much content in your podcast feeds as you possibly can find. So you can find that on the Buckeye Weekly podcast feed, the Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning podcast feed. There's been a ton of recruiting news on the Skull Session Recruiting podcast feed as well. You can subscribe to all of those and have lots of content for your drive over the river and through the woods this weekend to grandmother's house or wherever you're going. We'll have lots of coverage there. We're going to have plenty of coverage as well coming up this week, all week long. We'll be up in Ann Arbor on Friday, live coverage from up in Ann Arbor of the Ohio State's team arrival, all that kind of fun stuff. And then, of course, Saturday, pregame show, postgame show, all the fun stuff you've come to know and expect from us at BuckeyeHuddle.com and YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.